Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Joining me today is my good friend Dr. Kanniks and we're going to talk about his new book. Dr. Kanniks, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you?
Namaskar. Thank you very much and happy Diwali to you in 2025, the 250th birth year of Dikshitar.
Yes, indeed. And we're going to talk about Dr. Kanniks' new book on Muthusvami Dikshitar, the significance of his 250th remembrance of his year, and also the significance is that he has left behind such a wonderful body of work. It may not be quantity, but the quality is right up at the top drawer. Dr. Kanniks, why did you write this book?
Great question. Thank you, Sree Iyer. So I've been indulging in the music of Dikshitar pretty much all my life. I first got exposed to his 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗏 when I was very young. 8-9 years old, and then when my chithi started learning the veena, that's when I first started getting exposed to his compositions, and they kind of became second nature just by listening. And then I started learning music, and then now when I look back, I realize that right from the age of 9 to now, Dikshitar has been in some way, shape or form part of my work, what I've studied, what I've researched, and so on and so forth. And this week, the 250th year, last year, I kind of felt that time was running out. Somebody has to write about this, about his life, about his music in detail, in a manner that it can reach a lot of people. Because to me, he is not just a musician. He is not just a composer. In the world of Carnatic music, we tend to look at him as one of the Trinity. The other two being Tyagaraja and Shyama Shastri. So if you go, for those that are not familiar with Carnatic music, if you went to a kacheri or a performance of Carnatic music, you would see a portrait of three composers, and those are referred to as the Trinity. So Dikshitar is not just one of the Trinity. He is much more than that. What he delivers in his compositions is very profound. It's integrated in a way, it integrates a lot of ideas in a way that you can't even imagine. And it also has it's rooted in a certain vision, the vision of non-duality, and it definitely gives us a lot of lessons for the future. So I felt an urge to commit all this into some kind of a book. So I started last year. The editing process took a long time, and finally this book is out during Navratri 2025, and then people are beginning to read it during Deepavali 2025, which is an apt time to get into the subject matter.
Thank you so much. And Muthusvami Dikshitar's compositions, if you look at it, they're not located in one place. No. If you take a look at, just draw comparisons here, not comparisons, rather parallels. Tyagaya was, Rama to him was everything. If you look at his body of work, probably 90% would be around Rama. I mean, I'll have to search for those which are not about Rama. Whereas Muthusvami Dikshitar is not like that. His body of work is totally different. He was a widely traveled man. He went to many temples, and the temple's impact shows up in many of his compositions. Talk to us a little bit about, first of all, his signature, that is Guru Guha. How did that come about? And if he did leave the ragam in which he first composed that song, or he composed that song. Over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you the first element of contrast between Muthusvami Dikshitar and the other two of the Trinity is that Dikshitar indulged in leaving the raga mudra chapa behind in almost all of his compositions. All his compositions are in Sanskrit, with the exception of a couple of them. And like you said before, Tyagaraja's compositions, most of them are in praise of Rama. Of course, you have a few in praise of Devi, Shiva, or even Ganesha, and all that. And Tyagaraja also traveled, but not much. He went to Srirangam, Kovur, and a few other places. But Dikshitar traveled very widely. But even before getting into travel, let's look at the subject matter of Dikshitar's kritis. Unlike Tyagaraja, who was focused on Rama, and Shyama Shastri, who was focused on Kamakshi, Dikshitar has written compositions in praise of virtually all forms of divinity held in worship in the Hindu tradition. So he literally follows the footsteps of Adi Shankara, who is associated with the word Shanmata, or the 6 religions which are the Shaiva, the Vaishnava, the Shakta, the Skanda, the Ganapatya, and then Shaura, which is Surya, the worship of Surya. So So with Dikshitar, you see all different forms of devatas addressed in his music. Then you combine that with travel. He traveled ceaselessly. First of all, he went to the banks of the Ganga, to Kashi, to perform his tapasya in the Sree Vidya traditions. He was taken there by his guru, and then he spent a long time there for about 5 years and doing intense sadhana. And he became a composer only after he got back to Tamil Nadu. He literally transformed when he went up to Tirthani. And the story goes that an old man came and blessed him. So, in a way, you can draw a parallel with the words of Arunagirinathar, who refers to Murugan in Tirthani as the old man of Tirthani. Okay, and then the last line of Arunagirinath's poetry, Kandara Anubhuti, says Guru Vai, Baruvai, Arulvai, Guhane. The first word is Guru and the last word is Guha. So, Guru Guha is actually the signature of Muthusvami Dikshitar. And in addition, in every single composition of his, almost all his compositions, he has a mention of the name of the raga. I mean, there are some exceptions as well. And the names are not just like, okay, it's not like writing a poetry where you say Mary had a little lamb, Abheri Ragam pleases me, or something like that. It's not like that. The name of the raga is very cleverly woven into the Kriti itself, as we can see in many different examples. And I can get into those as we get into this discussion.
Thank you so much. And let's talk a little bit about the book itself. Show us the book. They have some very interesting scriptures on the front page. They're like 6 symbols. Talk to us a little bit about those symbols.
Yeah, there's a lot of symbolism here, kind of like 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Code, and kind of like Dikshitar, because Dikshitar puts a lot of symbolism into his compositions as well. So you see a star here. The star is the star of Murugan, 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗏 nakshatram. That is the asterism in which Dikshitar was born. And you see 6 symbols in each of the Kuti triangles out there. So you see the Hamsa Pakshi, which is a symbol of Advaita. Then you see Devi, who is right there, representing the Shakta Tantra that Dikshitar was involved in. Then you see the Gopuram, which represents 2 things. One is the extensive travel that Dikshitar did in southern India, particularly in Tamil Nadu, and also some connection, some similarity in ideas with the Thevaram compositions of Tamil Nadu, which are about temples as well. Then at the bottom you see a veena which looks a little different from the traditional South Indian veena. This is called the Rudra veena, which is central to the 𝗤𝗏𝗏 compositional form. So the 𝗤𝗏𝗏 compositions are very slow and majestic, and you see some kind of a similar Gambhira pace with Dikshitar compositions. So that is one of the areas here. And then you see the violin, which is reflective of Dikshitar's influence on colonial music. Let's put it this way. It's not colonial music influence on Dikshitar. Dikshitar picked up about 39 tunes that came with the British, made them his own, wrote lyrics in Sanskrit to these compositions, and created a new body of work which nobody else had done before at that point in time, called the Notice for Sahityas. And one of them is actually the tune of the British national anthem. And there's one called Lord Macdonald's Reel, which is performed in pubs and other places. Then there's one called Rakes of Mallow, which he took and transformed into a stuti in praise of Meenakshi. So, the whole story is really, really interesting. I've taken a whole chapter to cover that. And then and I've also made a documentary film on the topic. It's called Colonial Interlude, and it's being shown in festivals and in universities and other places. But we'll wait till next year to actually make it available to everyone on YouTube. And finally, there's number 72 in the Devanagari script. Represents the raga theory, which is laid out by a musicologist by name 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗏, whose legacy was very religiously followed by Ramaswamy Dikshitar's family, which is by Dikshitar's father, Dikshitar and his brothers, as well as his next generation of composers in the family, as well as his disciples. They all followed the 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗏 tradition, which is a family which is based on theoretical family of 72 Raganga ragas, and that's what you see in here. So all of these have had a music influence on the style of Dikshitar, both musically as well as lyrically, which is the reason for the 6 spokes here. Plus, there were 6 geographic hubs connected to the life of Dikshitar, which are spelled out in the book, and then the Shanmata, of course. So, which is why all the symbolism is expressed in the cover itself.
Thank you so much. And let's talk a little bit about the book itself. There are several sections. You have covered the 219 number of songs that are officially associated or attributed to Muthusvami Dikshitar. But there's a whole body of work which is sort of like in the gray. People are not sure if he himself wrote it or somebody else tried to write it, pass it off as Muthusvami Dikshitar's work. Talk to us a little bit about the composition of the book. You have 2 or 3 sections there.
Yeah.
Over to you.
The book is divided into 3 sections. The first section is about the man, about the composer. Prior to that, there's a prologue which shows how I discovered Dikshitar. And there's also a chapter that the preface says, why do we need a book about Dikshitar? And that's a very important introduction to the book. Then once we get into book 1, we establish the context. Who is Dikshitar and how does his music relate to the rest of what we hear in Carnatic music? What is Carnatic music and all kind of stuff? Then the biography takes us through his life story in the context of other people that lived during his time. Then the second chapter, the second part of the book is about the music. It gets into his repertoire. It gets into the 6 different influences on his music. And then it gets into 𝗤𝗓𝗏 𝗏𝗏𝗏, the travels of Dikshitar in the context of other people's travels. Then we get into षण्मता, how the 6 different religions shine through the music of Dikshitar. Then we have a whole chapter on colonial interlude and how Dikshitar dealt with colonial tunes. And finally, mysticism in Dikshitar, how Dikshitar invoked the elements using the Amritavarshini Raga. Then book 3 is very important. It says Samashti. Samashti is a culmination of all of this, the oneness of all of this. So what do we learn? What do we know about Dikshitar? That he was an integrator, he was an innovator, he was an expert in Indian knowledge systems, he was rooted in so many aspects of Indian knowledge. So what he serves through his musical offerings is not just music, but it's much, much more than that. And obviously, it's going to take a lot of prep work to be able to appreciate his music. And so what can we learn from that? How can we use the tools that are available at our disposals to create whatever it is that we are working on? And how can we navigate uncertainties that he navigated during his era, traveling at the same time? And there's a chapter called Mangalam, which features an 8-verse composition of mine in praise of Muthusvami Dikshitar, essentially giving the essence of this book. And finally, there's another chapter which is epilogue, which is what do we do to preserve the memory of Dikshitar? And then there's an appendix of all the compositions that are listed in the Sangeeta Sampradaya Pradarshini by his nephew, the official ones. And then there's another appendix which lists all the compositions of Dikshitar which are in circulation, which are not documented in the official work. And then we get into other appendices of the Navavarana Kritis, the Notaswaras and all that. And finally, there's one more appendix here which is very important, which is where I've shared a research work that was done on our recording of the Notaswara Sahityas of Dikshitar in 2007 as to how they have an influence on the developmental skills as children are raised. So they've studied the influence of these compositions on preschool children. It's a very interesting studies, and they've concluded that these compositions do have a significant impact on the children that listen to them. So,
absolutely. I mean, we should encourage everybody who has this book. You get this book, have your children go through it. Even if it's not for the entirety, they can go through this, pique their curiosity. Why is this book written? What is the importance of Muthusvami Dikshitar? I can go on. Dr. Kanniks, you have enriched my knowledge about Carnatic music, and also in particular Muthusvami Dikshitar, how he stands apart, from in the Trinity itself. He's something else.
yes,
There's much more to him than just being a part of a Trinity. And thought, his prose construction, his delivery, his the impact of the song. I can go on.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Kanniks, where can we get this book?
You can order it from the publisher's website. The book is published by Garuda Prakashan Publishers in Delhi. They have a website, and we should provide the website in a link. You can in the US, you can get it from the from the Garuda Prakashan website as well. They will ship it to you here, or you can order it from Amazon as well. Like Sree Iyer was saying, Dikshitar is not just part of the trinity of Carnatic music. You can visualize him as a part of another trinity, which is Adi Shankara, 𝗤𝗏𝗏 Brahmendra, and Muthusvami Dikshitar. So the Advaitic trinity, who have created and left behind a lot of hymns, and in Muthusvami Dikshitar's case, songs rooted in the Advaitic paradigm. And then you have Kumara Guruparar, Arunagirinathar, and Muthusvami Dikshitar, the Murugan enabled Trinity, so to say. So there's many ways in which you can look at Dikshitar. There's so much you can learn from him. This brief peek we had for 15 minutes is not even scratching the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot to learn, and even after writing 400 pages, I feel that I could probably write a few more pages, and even learn something.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm hoping that we'll have a sit down one day, maybe with you bringing your violin to kind of enhance some of the effects of what his thoughts were when he was writing it. I'm just formulating this even as I'm listening to you speak about Sree Muthusvami Dikshitar. Let's do something really nice that would stay for the ages. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, and happy Deepavali once again.
Thank you. Same to you.